The movie starts with Charlie and his son sitting at his grandmother's house. Charlie greets her, picks up his son, gets in the car, and drives off. On the way, he plays music and they both start singing along, and he plays with his son for a while, until Charlie arrives at the market. As soon as his son sees people gathering, he says to his father, "I want to see what is happening down there." His father agrees but says, "Don't go alone and wait for me until I park the car and come back for you." When the child gets off, Charlie continues driving until he reaches the parking lot, still singing, and parks slowly and gets out of the car. As soon as he gets out, people are waiting for him with machine guns to open fire on him, and he falls down unable to move. And when they find him down, they take their cars and walk away. But Charlie's hands move to let us know that he is still alive. We go back in time to when Charlie was in prison sitting with an old man named Ellen, who treated him like his father. And when Ellen was about to get out of prison, he told Charlie, "When you get out of here, don't come back and live your life without trouble." Meanwhile, Mary, a police officer, is standing at the grave of her husband, who was killed by Tony in a raid. We go back to the present. The ambulance arrives to take Charlie to the hospital, and all the doctors try to do the surgery on him, but they find his condition complicated due to the many bullets in his body. Elsewhere, a man with a cell phone walks in and hands it to Tony to let him know that the job is done with Charlie, and there is no need to worry about him anymore. Just as the doctors are discussing about Charlie's condition, the reports that he's been shot is broadcast on the news, and it said that he lived his whole life in crime until he became a gang boss. But then, he decided to live with his family and leave the world of crime behind. When the police chief sees this, he tells them, "I need someone to get me to Mary, so I can talk to her at the crime scene and explain the situation to her." And we go back with a flashback. When Charlie was out of jail, he hears the news of Ellen's death at the hands of a gang, and because he was his friend and considered him his godfather, he decided to take revenge from the gang by his own hand. He meets two of his friends and tells them that "we will vow to be friends for life," and takes them with him until he reaches the gang leader's car, where he pulls out his gun and shoots him in front of his son's eyes. Mary then meets with her leader, who tells her, "I know it's hard on you, but I know you're smart, and you need to get the idea out of your mind that he's working with the person who killed your husband, and you need to give him protection until we find out who did this. And if there's a gorilla, we'll let them kill each other, and it's a win-win for us." Mary then goes to Charlie to find him coming out of his coma, and she says, "You have to help us," but he refuses. His lawyer comes in to tell him, "Don't worry, we'll protect you, and don't worry about the police." The lawyer also says, "I'm bringing Kareem with me, and I don't trust many people right now." When Mary returns home, she finds her son asking her about his father, so she tells him, "Your father sees you everywhere you go, but he doesn't know how to talk to you." She gets up after talking to him, crying on her husband. The phone rings, and she answers it. Then she realizes that no one is talking, so she hangs up quickly. After the lawyer and Kareem show up, Kareem says, "We can't just leave him here. They're going to kill him. We have to do something right now." At this time, someone enters the hospital dressed up like a doctor and keeps walking until he enters the room where Charlie is supposed to be sleeping to shot him. But the police have already moved him to another room, and Mary is keeping an eye on his room. Tony and the rest of his men arrive at the hospital to visit Charlie, and when Tony walks in, he says, "It's good to see you alive, and you don't know how I was worried about you." And while he is saying, "I was bringing you flowers," he hands him a picture with the words on the back of it, "I'm watching the police to find out who did this and kill him." And Charlie thanks him before walking away. His lawyer goes back to meet his wife and tells her that Charlie is fine, but his wife has cancer and is in her last days. He hears Eva, Charlie's daughter, playing music loudly and goes into the living room to find her broken because her mother and her father is dying at the same time, and the lawyer reassures her that nothing bad is going to happen. Meanwhile, Charlie is sleeping in the hospital and tells the doctor, "Why can't I feel my right hand, even if it's cut?" The doctor says, "I was hiding it, but your nerve is paralyzed and you have to use your left hand." Charlie's mom sits next to him and says, "You have to promise me that you will die after me, and I don't want them to come and tell me that your son died, because then I won't forgive myself." Someone comes in and says, "Mary, you got a call from the prison in Marseille." When she realizes it's from Bisaccio, she gets up quickly to go to the prison. Bisaccio says, "Now, I heard that Charlie was shot, and you need to consider him as a common enemy for both of us, and I need to get out of here." Mary says, "I think you don't want us help you, and I'm not going to make a deal with you like this." Then the lawyer and Kareem find out that someone called Frederick says he knows who tried to kill Charlie. When Charlie hears this, he leaves the hospital with them to go to the place where Frederick is supposed to be. Charlie promises him that if he talks, he won't kill him. Frederick tells him that he works for Tony, who deals drugs with Bisaccio, and when Tony realizes that Charlie doesn't like this kind of deal, he decides to send a car with 7 armed men to try to kill him. After Charlie knew the truth, he tells Kareem to let Frederick go. "I promised him I wouldn't kill him, so I'm gonna do it," even though Kareem warns him that if he lets him go, he'll go and tell Tony what happened. Kareem then goes to his family to stay with them, and his father jokes that Kareem's daughters must be really smart for their mother, because Kareem was a loser and didn't study much, so they all laugh until they finish eating. Kareem gets up to go to his job, but a black car pulls up in front of his car to kidnap him, takes him, and throws him into a cutoff area, and he finds himself tied up and thrown on the ground, and all of Tony's men are hitting him, until one of them says to Frederick, "Come on, you hit him too." But Frederick barely hits him. Then they kill him and puts his body on Kareem. Then Pascal comes and says, "You know I work for whom? And my boss wants to send Charlie a letter. But you know that letters are expensive nowadays," and takes out a knife to cut off his head and send it to Charlie's house as a message. When Charlie's wife goes to pick up the package and opens it, she sees Kareem's head and screams for her husband. Charlie then attends Kareem's funeral and is still grieving for his friend who died because of him, and tells the lawyer, "You have to take my family to Marseille because it's dangerous for them to stay here." Meanwhile, Tony's men are celebrating what they did and Sebastian's birthday when Charlie walks in and tells them to put their guns in the water, and if anyone moves, he will be dead. He tells them, "I know what you did, and I know what you failed to do, so I'm going to kill each and every one of you. But when? Only I know. You will live every day of your life in fear." He tells them, "Whose birthday is today?" They tell him it's Sebastian's. He pulls out a gun and kills him, leaves them and walks away, then goes to the next one who is in the grave to visit his son, and says, "Don't worry. If you're so worried, I'll let you visit him after you killed my friend, Kareem, in cold blood." Mary then decides to go to Tony to find out more about the war between him and Charlie. When she arrives, the guards tell her the most important thing is not to be too loud because he has a severe headache and we don't want to disturb him. Tony tells her that Charlie became more dangerous after his injury, which is not a good thing, and the only way to catch him to investigate him about his past because he made a lot of trouble before. But Mary says, "I'll see what I can do with him." The lawyer then goes to the empty Charlie's house, only to find that Tony's men have been searching the place and breaking everything on the floor. When he goes out to walk, one of Tony's men sees him and calls the other men to tell them what happened and that he's definitely going to Charlie. Meanwhile, Charlie is sitting on the beach, playing music and eating with a cat by his side, eating with him, when he pulls out a glass of wine and tells the cat, "You are not going to take anything from him, because the last time I had a dog and he got drunk, he went crazy and attacked people." In the middle of his chill time, he hears the sound of a car coming at him, so he locks everything up and escapes to a nearby abandoned house. It was the lawyer. He enters the house. He searches the house for Charlie, but he doesn't find him until he enters a room full of weapons and Charlie comes out behind him and surprises him. The lawyer tells Charlie, "Be careful because Tony's men are all over you. They even went into your old house and broke it, but they didn't find any evidence in it." While they are speaking, Tony's men arrive in a car at the house. Charlie tells the lawyer, "I will deal with them. Go and run away on my boat." And skirmishes starts between Charlie and Tony's gang. The lawyer runs down the sidewalk to the boat, but when he arrives, the dogs have already reached him and one of Tony's men grabs him to take him. While Tony's men are busy dealing with the lawyer, Charlie takes the motorcycle and escapes with it, so that all the cars follow him. And when Charlie can't get away, he drops himself into the police station to get caught, and none of Tony's men can put a hand on him. However, the kidnapped lawyer arrives and finds himself in front of Tony, who says, "If you want to live, you have to give me Charlie. And if you don't, I'm not responsible for what will happen to you." After a while, Charlie goes in to meet Mary, and she says, "You can't stay out of trouble, especially after you killed 2 of Tony's men." He says, "I'm not a suspect, and if you had an evidence that I did this, you would have caught me by now." But Mary says, "For the record, you had 8 people trying to kill you. 5 of them shot you, but 1 of them was on your side. As we found out that all the bullets from one gun hit the car and none of them touched you, Charlie was surprised and not know who did it." Tony organizes a big party for Malik's wedding, who is one of his men, but finds out that Frank is not there and says to the rest of his men, "We want to know where he's." At this moment, Charlie gets to Frank and shoots him in the leg to take him and ask him who was among the people who shot him. Frank says there was a stranger, but I don't know who was he, and if you didn't kill me, you'll have all the info that Tony uses in the drugs business, so Charlie can take it from him. One of Tony's gang arrives and tries to save Frank, but Charlie comes out and shoots him until he hits him. Then he returns and kills Frank. Charlie then goes to stand in front of Malik's car and waits him to get out so he can shoot and kill him. Mary goes to the station to tell the forensic doctor that they found a fingerprint next to one of the bodies. It was Charlie's right hand, which is enough for them to arrest him. The next day, Charlie goes to the police station to meet the lawyer there, who tells him, "You're crazy, how can you come here? If Tony hears about this, he'll kill you." Charlie replies, "Don't worry, he will never think I'd stay here," and hands him the flash drive with all the drugs info on it to say, "Give it to Oriolo." Then Mary sits in the car thinking about how she can go after Charlie without him knowing. Then she thinks he has a little boy and a little girl who must be going to school, so she calls her assistant who is sleeping and says, "Come with me tomorrow morning to see them at school." The next day, Mary goes after them to see that someone is picking them up every day to go to school, and she continues to follow them until one of Tony's cars stops and people with guns get out to kill the driver and kidnap the boy and girl, and Mary continues to run after them. She returns to the station to find that Eva has returned and she was beaten. Eva told her they are leaving her to send a message that if Charlie continues to follow them, they will kill his son. When Mary comes out of the station, she finds Charlie riding beside her to tell her, "I have a deal for you. You will say that you caught me, and this way Tony will think I'm in jail, and he'll send someone to kill my son. In that moment, I will be behind him and kill him. Then I will let you arrest me without any resistance." The news of his imprisonment is broadcast, and Tony tells Oriolo to kill the kid quickly while Charlie is waiting for him. So he follows him until he finds him enters an old house. When Oriolo goes in to kill Charlie's son, and one standing guarding the kid says, "Why kill a little boy? I can't do that." He beats Oriolo and runs off to free the child, but Oriolo comes back to kill him and takes the child with him in the car, and when he gets out, he finds Charlie waiting for him. So he punches him until he kills him and gets his son out of the car and takes him. Tony wakes up to find Charlie at home and tells him, "I'm going to kill you, not because you did drugs, but because you betrayed me, and we were supposed to be together for the rest of our lives. If you wanted to kill me, you would have shot me, but you couldn't. So I'm going to make my coffee." And Tony turns around and throws boiling water on Charlie, takes out his gun, puts it on Charlie's head, and keeps throwing boiling water on Charlie's head while saying, "Beg for your life." The police arrive just after they found Tony's flash drive to say, "You're under arrest for drug trafficking." And Charlie goes to the station to turn himself in as promised. He stays in the interrogation, answering every question with, "I don't know," until Mary arrives and says, "The only thing that would have gotten us to arrest you is your fingerprints. But you use your left hand because your right is paralyzed, so you're free to go. But I want to know who was with them that didn't shoot you." To which Charlie says, "I don't know too." Charlie comes out of the station and finds the lawyer waiting for him. So he rides with him and says, "Drive me to the garage where I was shot," and take out the gun and tells the lawyer, "I know you were the one with them that didn't shot me." Then he tells the lawyer to sit on the floor and shoot on the ground beside him like he did with him. Then he says, "I forgive you after you took care of my family all this time." Charlie goes back to his family in a place far away from Marseille and gangs, and lives with them in peace. And just like that, our movie comes to an end. I hope you enjoyed it.